Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and today we're highlighting the heartbreaking case of a 24-year-old woman in Atlanta, Georgia. She vanished on July 30th, 2022, after visiting a Midtown apartment with a friend. She lived life to the fullest, came from a close-knit family, and had a personality that drew people in with her bubbly nature and trusting spirit. But on that summer night, she entered an apartment building in the 1600 block of Peachtree Street in Midtown and was never seen again. What followed was a mother's relentless search for her daughter, an investigation that revealed disturbing connections to the dark web, and a legal battle that continues to this day. In this episode, we'll speak with her mother, who shares the painful details of her daughter's disappearance, the investigation, and her ongoing fight for justice. This is the story of Allahnia Lenoir. Before we dive into the events that led to the disappearance of Allahnia, we first need to understand who she was. Allahnia was 24 years old, and her mother, Jannette Jackson, says she had already lived more life than many people twice her age.
One thing about my daughter is she was just one of those, I don't want to use the word naive, but I do want to say she was very trusting. She was just one of those people that trusted in friendships, trusted in new friendships. She just was always trying to celebrate, just all the things that you could celebrate. She's just one of those people that like to have a good time and really, really enjoy their life to the fullest.
Allahnia came from a multicultural background, and food was a big part of her family's connection. She was affectionately called Fruity by loved ones, a nickname reflecting her bubbly spirit, and a family with an affinity for giving nicknames.
And she was a foodie. We come from a multicultural background, so she's Black and Puerto Rican, and, we love food. We love all types of food, so we cooked a lot. We come from a very, we like to joke around a lot. So that definitely runs through the entire family. So, she was just like always making jokes and having fun and just trying to find the light.
At the time of her disappearance, Allahnia was exploring different paths and figuring out her next steps in life.
She was a dancer, so she was in nightlife. She was also a singer, so she was recording music. She was very artistic, She was, at that time, kind of trying to figure out life, and we were thinking about getting a food truck for her because our family has owned multiple restaurants, in the past, and that's just a passion of hers.
She had a very close relationship with her mother. After the pandemic, Allahnia had moved back home. They talked constantly, and she always shared her location with her mom.
Me and my daughter were very close. I knew exactly where she was going. I knew exactly what she was doing. When she was out, she always shared her location. So there was never a time. She after COVID, she came back home. So she was living in my home. So this is one like, an adult child that doesn't live at home, so you don't really know their schedule, is what I'm saying. So we saw each other every day. And even when she was out, we talked all the time.
When Allahnia disappeared, Jannette knew something was wrong. But to better understand the full story, we need to go back to that weekend in July 2022.
So my daughter left here on a Friday, which is not unusual. Pretty much on her weekends, she kind of spent with her friends or her boyfriend. And pretty much we would hang out a little bit. Our days was Friday, so we would hang out, do our thing, and then she would go out. So she left here with her friend Tori, who was in the beginning of all of this. So that Saturday, before she got picked up by Tori, me and her talked, we laughed, we joked, sent each other TikToks, and we had some plans for that Monday.
That would be the last time she would hear from her daughter. Saturday night, Alani's friend Tori picked her up. They went to a club but left early, and later connected with two men, Stephen Obate and Deontay Reynolds, deciding to go to their apartment for a kickback in the 1600 block of Peachtree Street. This was the last place Alani was seen alive. Things took a disturbing turn around midnight. That's when Tori left Alani with the two men.
What actually happened that night, my daughter gets left there with Stephen and Deontay. That's weird. Let's start with that. Tori's excuse for that was that she was ready to go and that my daughter wasn't, and she left. If you knew my daughter, you knew Tori. That's already a funny story in itself because my daughter was a girl's girl. So she would never personally leave anybody, no matter what. Oh, you don't want to go? Well, I guess we're not leaving.
Tori also left her car at the apartment, a detail Jannette found very strange.
Now, mind you, Tori left there in her car, left her car there at these guys' house over the weekend. So we'll just sit on that for a minute. So she goes there with my daughter, then decides to leave my daughter there. Then Deontay walks her to another guy, gets her in her car safely, and then the guy leaves with her, and Tori leaves her car there for the weekend. She calls me the next day. She's like, hey, have you talked to Allahnia? I said, no, why would I have talked to her if she was with you? Oh, no, real light. Oh, she decided to go, they're going to get her Uber, which was also a weird thing because if she needed an Uber, she would always call me and tell her to send her Uber.
Jannette wasn't too alarmed at this point. She assumed Alani was at her boyfriend's house, but she still had this uneasy feeling.
So, again, nothing. I said, okay, well, she's probably at her boyfriend's house. And I'm not thinking anything of it, but it was something in Tori's, tone that was kind of like, I don't know, the first little strange feeling I got.
Jannette checked Alani's location. It showed her still at the apartment on Peachtree. Her phone was active, so Jannette left a message, hoping she'd call back.
So I have to respect her space. So I said, okay, I just called my daughter. She didn't pick up. I said, hey, this girl's giving me kind of worried. Give me a call when you get a chance when your phone's back on.
Tori called again. This time, she told Jannette that she had talked to the two men and that they were, quote, being weird.
And Tori calls me. She's like, hey, have you talked to Alani? This, I said, no, I have not. So I text her, hey, listen, I'm getting worried about you. Please contact me back. She's like, I talked to those guys and they're being weird. And, I left her there and now, I don't like the way they're talking to me. So I'm on my way there.
Surveillance video from the apartment shows all four: Alani, Tori, Stephen Obate, and Deontay Reynolds entering together. Deontay had walked Tori out. Alani never left on camera.
Now, what I do want to say is by viewing the video, there's video footage, all four of them going into the apartment, which if you've watched my story, you hear me talking about that. And there's also video footage of the people leaving in and out of the apartment, my daughter never being seen on that camera again. One of the things that runs through my mind that I've actually never publicly talked about, so exclusive for you, is me watching the video. And obviously as a mother at this time, I'm looking for every clue, right? Looking at the video of her and Deontay leaving that apartment. When they're walking out of that apartment, they are stoic. Two people who apparently have gone to this apartment, had a good time, whatever that good time was, if you know what I'm saying, right? Whatever adult people do when they're hanging out. When they're walking in this long hallway, you look at them, they're just like weird. They're not saying anything. They're not really communicating. They're just kind of walking, kind of just very robotically. Bye, bye. Now, why does that matter? Because before, when I watched the video first, I did not know what happened to my daughter. I had not come to the realization that she's no longer with us. I did not know what they did to their body, and we probably never will know exactly what they did to her body. But we know that it wasn't anything that was good.
After that night, Jannette began a desperate search. August 1st, she filed a missing persons report. She contacted police, friends, family, anyone who might have seen Alani. On September 21st, 2022, Atlanta police held a press conference announcing what loved ones feared most. They now believed Allahnia Lenoir had been murdered and that her body had been disposed of. Two men, Deontay Reynolds and Stephen Obate, were charged with felony murder and concealing the death of another. A third man, Nicholas Hendrickson, was later arrested and charged with concealing the death of another, tampering with evidence, making false statements, and hindering the apprehension or punishment of a criminal. But for Jannette, this was never only a murder case. It was something far bigger.
My daughter was trafficked. Whether my daughter was alive when she was trafficked or not, I don't know. But that she was trafficked, traffic says that you're taken beside your will from one place to another, specifically out of this state to that state without her consent. And she absolutely could not give consent.
According to Alani's mom, the men moved her body from Atlanta to Douglasville and then to Alabama, making several stops along the way.
There's no doubt about it. They moved my daughter's body. So they absolutely moved her from this state to that state, through and back. That is not hearsay. That is exactly what they did. Now, was she in what condition her body was at that point? That's up to them to tell the truth. I don't think that these men are capable of telling the truth. And the reason is because the truth is way worse than what everybody thinks it is.
Alani had a purse with her personal items, including more than $1,200 in cash that night she disappeared. None of it has ever been found.
They not only took her, but her things. She had her belongings. She had her purse. She had over $1,200 in cash that never gave back. She had her cell phone. She had her IDs. She had her personal belongings, which they never gave back.
Investigators have never recovered any of Alani's belongings, and to this day, her body has not been located. Frustrated with the pace of the police investigation, Jannette hired a private investigator to continue the search on her own.
So the reason why we decided to do that is more so I could not look for my daughter, her actual body. And the police, unfortunately, with all the things that have happened in the world, the way that they have to work is very different than when you hire somebody privately, right? So they have all this red tape. They have to, and if they're not careful, then they can be sued, right? Or they can be perceived as either being too aggressive or not aggressive. So I get some of the politics that they do. And also, she's a little a brown girl, right? So even though that's not something that I talk about every day, I don't like to harp on it every day, but we do see people who look like us go missing every day, and there's not as much motion. So my family's objective was to get that motion, whether you want us to have motion or not. She's going to have motion because all these babies who keep disappearing in Georgia, if you take some time, anytime during your research and look, they all look like my daughter. They all literally look like they could be sisters or cousins or, you know what I'm saying, familiar. Whoever's doing this to these women here, they have a type.
In her relentless search for Alani, Jannette went to places she never imagined she'd have to go.
In the spirit of looking for my daughter, I went everywhere and I talked to everybody. And I went to crack houses and whorehouses and pimp places and places that I should have never been because, you know, I could have also came up missing. But in doing that, I found a lot of good people too, who led me to continue to push and tell me that I wasn't crazy.
What she uncovered during her own investigation was deeply disturbing. Two of the men connected to her daughter's case, she says, had been involved in far more than one crime.
These guys have been up to all kinds of things, and they had been selling all kinds of bad drugs, and they had been hurting, other people. I ran into ex-girlfriends who said, this person did this to me and that person did that to me, which led me to believe like, hey, there's more going on there.
In 2024, Stephen Obate was also indicted on federal charges related to drug trafficking and dark net operations, separate from Alani's case. He was arrested that June after nearly 2 years on the run, captured during a jet ski chase on Lake Allatoona. With these charges, he remains in custody. The courts have denied bond, citing him as a flight risk and danger to the community.
So I wasn't crazy. And everything that I told them to look for, they slowly but surely found. So they were on the dark web. Their businesses were on the dark web. And you can't find my daughter or her body parts.
Jannette believes what happened to her daughter is part of a much larger crisis in Atlanta: human trafficking, and potentially worse, organ harvesting. She points to what she sees as a pattern: young women disappearing with remains never recovered.
She was not only trafficked, but her body parts were never found. Why do we think that is? And they were on the black market. Why do you think people's body parts keep missing? She's not the first one. Look it up. Y'all do not want to say that because you have all of these things coming into this city. You don't want to say that these girls are being drugged. They think they're smoking weed, or they think they're doing this, and you're giving them fentanyl, or you're giving them sleeping pills, so they don't know what happens to them. Then you either get them addicted to this stuff till they're working for you, or you're doing things to them, and then you traffic them. And when they don't do what you say, or you think you cannot control what they do, then you hack them up. That's what you're doing.
Atlanta's role in trafficking is often tied to its airport and interstate highways. Jannette believes that the authorities and media often avoid using the term trafficking when discussing cases like her daughter's.
One of the ways we can prevent them is by talking that they're happening. When have you seen any kind of episodes on anybody's TV talking about trafficking? You don't. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at everything that I've ever done with the police on TV, they specifically try to not use that word, when in fact, that is exactly what they did.
In July 2025, Nicholas Hendrickson was released on $20,000 bond to attend his father's funeral, a move that enraged Jannette and raised serious questions about justice in this case. Though he is not accused of murder, Hendrickson is charged with concealing the death, tampering with evidence, false statements, and hindering apprehension or punishment of a criminal. Now, Jannette points to systemic failures in Fulton County.
Not in a good space to dissect that real good. I know it was shocking to everyone, but and it was shocking to me too, but not, if that makes sense. Nothing about the way my daughter's case has been handled has ever spoke to me like, that's it, that's the right thing to do.
Just recently, the case took another dramatic turn. Nicholas Hendrickson, who had been released on bond while awaiting trial, skipped a mandatory court appearance. A bench warrant has since been issued for his arrest. He'd been granted bond in June 2025, under strict conditions: 24/7 monitoring, zero contact with Alani's family, and mandatory court appearances. But according to the district attorney's office, he failed to appear at a September compliance hearing. Now, a search is underway.
Well, first of all, she's in Fulton County, so people purposely and intentionally commit crimes in Fulton County because they know if you wait long enough, you'll get away with some stuff. We've seen it over and over and over, right? They're slowful in their court system. So if you have people who are going to testify, what are they going to remember after year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right?
Jannette recalls showing up to more court hearings than anyone else. More than prosecutors, more than defense attorneys, even more than the defendants themselves.
I've been to court more times than the DA, more times than more times than the attorneys who took on these cases. I've been there more than the people who committed these crimes. I've been there more times because half of the time there's court, I show up, my family shows up, the people show up, the DA doesn't show up. I show up, the DA shows up, one of the judges, not the judges, but not the attorneys on the other side doesn't show up. Or they forgot to have the defendant show up. Or they forgot to tell us that, they can't have court because there's something more important happening in that court.
She points out how high-profile trials in Fulton County often overshadowed her daughter's case. Trials like the YSL RICO case or the 2020 election prosecutions.
First it was the YSL trial, right? Then it was Trump. Then it was back to YSL, right? Then it was Fannie herself, right? And a bunch of other stuff. I'm just naming the stuff because some of these attorneys, unfortunately, have also been in my daughter's case. So everything tends to be more important if it's a high profile, right? Or if they deem it this is more important than that. I don't know what could be more important than somebody who was murdered, blatantly made to disappear, and these people keep playing in y'all face.
But one thing she never saw coming was the release of Nicholas Hendrickson. It happened during a hearing she wasn't even notified about.
They very much told me that would not happen. They very much told me, hey, if you do not agree with this, it won't happen. And they did it anyway. So to say that wasn't the first slap in the face, but that's the first one where I feel like everybody else felt it too. Everybody else was like, ain't no way. We know we see this lady every time talk about, please, no bond, no bond, no bond. And it seems like she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it. And the one time they didn't have me come, the one time I was not at court, the one time I could not present myself to the judge because I wasn't told that they were going to go before the judge, that's the one time they let him go.
The last court date Jannette attended was May 5th, 2024, Cinco de Mayo, a session where prosecutors said they would set a trial date before the summer.
That was the last time we were in actual court, and they said, hey, before the end of this summer, we have to set a trial date. And then he got up there and said, well, you know, I'm going to be doing this and that and this. I don't know. And it's been the I don't know.
As of this recording, no trial date has been scheduled in this case. When asked what must happen next, Jannette's answer is simple: set a date.
Yeah. But what needs to happen is basically they need to set a court date and let it just play out. And at the very least, you know, show the criminals in this county that everyone who works in the county is doing everything working. The real problem is in this county is that everybody works very separately and very differently with very, very different specific agendas. That's the main problem with Fulton County.
One of the most painful truths for Jannette is that she still cannot properly grieve her daughter.
I cannot grieve because I have not buried my daughter. I do not have a definitive answer as to what happened to my daughter.
Over the years, she's spoken to the 3 men charged in Allahnia's case and their families, but the encounters have only deepened her anguish.
The ugliness that have spewed from these people, from the commentary of, I'm sure you've heard some of the audio, she got what she deserved, to one of the parents saying, my son will never be with the likes of your daughter when your son is actually a whole monster. From this man's girlfriend, baby mama, whatever you want to call, spewing all kinds of ugliness about my daughter when she in fact did not know my daughter and should empathize with my daughter because she in fact also has a daughter. The ugliness that came from these people, even after the fact, it's unheard of. Like, not only are you guilty, but you literally continue to press try to humiliate her family, try to deter me from looking for her.
She has even received threats as she pushes for justice. Yet, despite the threats, the slow legal system, and the heartbreak, giving up is simply not an option. In confronting this tragedy, Jannette has a message for young women, especially in Georgia and Atlanta.
For you ladies out here in Georgia, and just in the world, please just be careful. Be careful in the people who you trust. Be careful in the company you keep. Be careful in the places you go. People, it takes time to get to know yourself and get to know. Think of how long it takes you as a woman to get to know who you are and how easily we assume that we give other people that, meaning our girlfriends or our boyfriends or people who we deal with or people who we work with or people who we go to school with. We have to have one of the things that I think is important, every, 10 years or so, as the decades pass, right, there's things that become important to us and then kind of slip our minds and then they come back and, kind of like another generation picks it up. And one of those things that I would like to say is girl code. Just people are just so jealous and just so worried about the wrong things, about the way we present to the world. And it's really, really important to get yourself a good community of girlfriends that look out for you. Mm-hmm. Even when there's always somebody in the group that's like, we know they got better judgment than us. You're like, that girl's making some good decisions. You know what I'm saying? And just working on that, because social media has us all trying to be the same person. All want to be the same, popular and unique, and really not being, if you're like everybody else, we're not going to be that. But I think that girl code has lost its essence in the ways that we look out for each other, and that in the spirit of I'm over here minding my own business, that's a trick. It is good for you to do the things that matter to you, right? And for you not to be poking, being nosy. But that does not mean that if you see somebody in distress, if you see somebody who's in pain, if you see somebody maybe making a poor decision, maybe drinking too much, and they like to drive, or maybe they're trying a drug, or maybe they have the wrong kind of person in their life, and you see it, that you should not speak on it.
For parents enduring similar tragedy, Jannette offers some gained wisdom in a book she's currently writing about her journey, hoping her story can prevent even one other heartbreak.
One of the most important things I think that is important for a parent to do is creating a real, creating an atmosphere where people understand who your child was. Once you get people to relate that this is a human being, this is somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, or somebody's mother, or somebody, people have been so desensitized, right? Because things keep happening that they just make us be like, oh, just another person who got hit, just another person in a car accident. We're getting desensitized by how much we see that the connectivity kind of comes down.
She also emphasizes the value of local leadership and community, not just high-level officials.
Community is super, super important. So reaching out to the community leaders is super important. On a local level, them council people, that's where it's at. Because higher than that, they don't even be really caring. But the people who you can go directly to, and they usually know you, or they know about you. Those community leaders, people don't understand when you're voting, this is what you need to look at. Who's going to be your activist? Who's going to point you in the right direction?
Throughout this ordeal, Jannette reached out to political leaders in every direction, from local officials in Atlanta to state and federal representatives.
I reached out to the governor, and I reached out to the mayor of Atlanta, and I reached out to the senators here. And I reached out to the president of the United States. And I say, everybody responded back except for the mayor of Atlanta, in which this happened. So his office just never got back. He never got back. I know personal people who went to him and told them about my daughter's case. He just never felt the need to try to guide that along in any way possible. But I do want to say John Ossoff, he sent me a beautiful letter. I want to say Trump and his wife sent me a beautiful letter. And our governor, Kemp, they responded, with a phone call and an email saying, hey, listen, this is not necessarily our jurisdiction, but whatever we could do to help you heal or whatever like that, they did do that.
The case as it stands today, waiting for the trial date,
Right.
is there still authorities investigating? Are they still trying to recover her?
They are not trying to recover her. I am trying to recover her.
Now, Jannette's mission is clearer than ever: to keep Allahni's story alive and to achieve justice.
This, exactly what you're doing, is actually one of the biggest ways people can help. Putting out her story, fresh stories, reminding people that this is still happening, that her body has not been given back to us.
She wants people to grasp not only what occurred to her daughter, but what could be happening to many other young women.
Fulton County and the state of Georgia hates to say that there's trafficking here. I'm going to take it to the next level of something that I never say on TV, but I'm going to say it today. She was not only trafficked, but her body parts were never found. Why do we think that is? And they were on the black market. Why do you think people's body parts keep missing? She's not the first one. Look it up. Y'all do not want to say that because you have all of these things coming into this city. You don't want to say that these girls are being drugged. They think they're smoking weed, or they think they're doing this, and you're giving them fentanyl, or you're giving them sleeping pills, so they don't know what happens to them. Then you either get them addicted to this stuff till they're working for you, or you're doing things to them, and then you traffic them. One of the things that I would love for people to understand is that she was in fact trafficked. And I don't care if they don't never put it on a piece of paper. My daughter was trafficked because her body was taken, put in a car, driven to Douglasville. From Douglasville, it went to Alabama. The man made multiple stops. Nicholas made multiple stops with my daughter, including getting snacks and going to a hotel with her. Body, let's say. She never gave permission for that.
Despite the staggering grief, frustration, and disillusionment with law enforcement, Jannette holds on to her faith.
I'm a believer. And I think that's important because she was a believer. We had very defined beliefs in God. So I know where she is today. And I do believe that if my daughter is 100% gone with Jesus, that's exactly where she is. And that had she been at home, the same thing would have happened. She would have just went to sleep. I do believe that. Her day was her day. What I don't believe in is how ugly the people who had something to do with her making her missing have extended the pain that my family, the community, her friends, and everybody who this story has touched, the damage that has been caused, these people have extended those circumstances.
3 years have passed since Allahnia's disappearance. 3 men have been charged. Still, no trial date has been set. No body has been found, and justice remains elusive. Jannette continues the fight, not just for her daughter, but for every young woman who may have slipped through the cracks.
The point to all these interviews is that people, it's happening so much that it's just like another thing, but it's not. I've had a privilege to talk to a lot of other parents who have gone through very similar things as me, who have their children missing, who have found out something heinous happened, who still don't know. And they just didn't have, they often ask, how did you, get the story to this point? But the point is that I have to remain very poised in a time where that's not what I feel. I feel very challenged and not normal and not healthy and not my best. But if I don't present well, they'll stop talking about my daughter. If I'm just this angry person, and believe me, I am enraged. I am enraged. I am disgusted. I am hurt. There are no words to express the damage that these people have caused.
Allahnia Lenoir was 24 years old when she vanished. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend with dreams. She was a creative, bright, and hopeful. In her 24 years, she had lived so much life. And she deserved so much better than what unfolded that night in July 2022. My thoughts and prayers are with Allahnia's family, especially her mother, Jannette, who still stands strong in seeking answers, justice, and accountability. Anyone with information that could help lead to the recovery of Allahnia Lenoir should please contact the Atlanta Police Department or Crime Stoppers. Their contact information can be found in the description below. As we close out this episode, remember that sharing Allahnia's story helps bring awareness to her case as her mother continues to achieve justice, and it may help prevent similar tragedies from taking place. Don't forget to click the follow button to stay updated on Allahnia's case and others like it. Be sure to subscribe to Hunting for Answers on YouTube to catch the video version to this episode, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more true crime content and case updates. If you're watching us on YouTube, drop your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.